Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, I think, and today we're going to focus on unemployment. It's one of those topics that has a huge synoptic potential, the microeconomics of the labour market meeting the sort of macroeconomics or cyclical trends in an economy. Now, who knows what questions might come up on paper 3. Today's focus is probably a little bit UK-centric, if truth be told, but we will have a little focus on some development aspects and some European and global aspects as well. Welcome to you if you're joining us live. Hundreds are. Make sure you're subscribed to the chat, to the channel, so you can contribute to the chat. Snap Bandit, one of our great El Presidente, I think, of the 2024 group, is on the treadmill for this session. Answers may include several typos. Don't worry about the typos, by the way. We know people are typing quickly, so don't worry about those. We never highlight them. And if you're watching on replay, just press that pause button anytime you like, so you can take a screenshot, maybe add to your revision notes as we go through. We have an amazingly supportive group of students here who write brilliant answers, so keep an eye also on the chat window during this session. Okay, here we go. Let's make a start. Just a quick little question for you, quiz question. Do post the answers in chat. These were the countries as of July of last year with the highest unemployment in the world. They're shaded by region: Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, Europe. In fact, 9 of the top 10 countries in the world with the highest unemployment, measured unemployment, are in Sub-Saharan Africa. Which is the country which is being shaded out? What do we think? So post the answer in, and we'll try and pick out the first answer. I think it's probably from Harry or from Grace. Our AI will spot it. Most of you, Leon says Ethiopia. Shreya thinks it's Eritrea. See, Jamze says South Africa. I think it is. Let's double check. It is indeed South Africa. Now, this is a really good point of contrast for you. Who knows, they may give you a question on the South African economy, unemployment is 28%. Let's take a look at the next slide, which looks at that in a little bit more historical detail. That's what's happened to unemployment in South Africa over the last 20 years. And notice I've shortened the y-axis. So it starts at 18%. Who knows? Again, thinking in examiner speak here, let's look at unemployment in South Africa, thinking about the synoptic aspects: cause, consequence, policies to address it. And if you look at youth unemployment, take a look at that chart. That is staggering. Again, the last 20 years, youth unemployment never lower than 35%, 1 in 3, now above 50%. So keep those figures in mind. How about European unemployment? Maybe they're going to give you a European perspective. Our next chart shows this. Again, this is August of last year, unemployment in the European Union. And in case anybody's asking, I can't see the UK in that chart. There is a reason. I blanked out 2 countries here. Can you name the 2 countries? And we're looking for the first double correct answer. So we'll need 2 countries, please. Greece has the second highest, 10.9%. So I'm looking for 2 countries, okay? And we are looking for the first 2 correct answers. Most of you are saying Spain is one of the 2 countries, and you're correct. So we're now looking for the country with the 3rd highest unemployment in the European Union. Shout out to Mrs. Hartley, and a lovely economics teacher there from Masha. Thank you for that. Will Croft, one of our great contributors, one of our ace economists, has smashed it, as another YouTuber might say. It is indeed Sweden. Now, Sweden is often seen as a kind of model of economic success, stability, if you like. And but Sweden has actually the 3rd highest, it's percentage points, aren't we? But Sweden has 3rd highest unemployment in the UK. We're at 4.3% now. Turkey, Isabel says, Spain and Turkey. Well, Turkey has fairly high unemployment because Turkey is not inside the EU. It's part of the customs union, but not yet a member of the EU. Great stuff. Now let's crack on. So time is of the essence. I've got, I think, a couple of 60-second comment questions. Can you define or can you explain to me in 60 seconds what is meant by hidden unemployment? Have a go. Here we go. So I've got a couple of key things. These are key definitions that I think you need to know for paper 3. So do have a go. Charlie is asking, Jeff, what's for lunch? Well, for me, Charlie, if you're asking, and Charlie has just asked, it is a chicken and hummus home meal wrap. But thanks for asking. Illy says, those who want to work more hours but are unable to due to the circumstances, maybe the economic circumstances. That's interesting. That is a type of hidden unemployment. Illy, so a good answer. G9, one of our ACE contributors, those who are not in work but don't claim unemployment benefits, so aren't classed in the claimant count. Great answer. I think the claimant count is useful there because they've made it harder to claim job seekers allowance over the years. George, hidden unemployment includes individuals who are not part of the labour force for reasons such as illness, mental health, chronic illness, post-pandemic in particular. Gemma says that unemployment hidden is when people are missed out in labour surveys. Exactly right. This is Gemma is getting to the heart of, I think, hidden unemployment. Somebody talks about underemployment, which is fine. Hidden unemployment is people who are, I call them the non-employed. They're of working age. They're probably in work, but they're not counted as unemployed. So basically, the hidden unemployment suggests that the true level, the official data you get, whatever country, is higher than the official rate. Any country you get next week, if it comes up on the paper, the official data is always subject to error, hidden unemployment. And that includes discouraged workers, people who've been out of work for 2, 3, 4 years, stopped looking for work. And as quite a few mentioned, it includes underemployed, people who are employed part-time but want a full-time job, people who are working in I don't know, for example, they might have a master's degree in politics and they're working as a barista for Starbucks or something. That's a perfectly good job to have. But perhaps they're working in jobs for which they're not fully qualified, or they're overqualified. So keep in mind that, by the way, any question on unemployment, keep in mind there are issues of methodology, of accuracy of the data. Next question. Can you tell me, please, and I think this is important, how does economic inactivity differ from unemployment? Have a go. John says, isn't underemployment quite a subjective measure? I think it is, John, and actually we often use survey evidence to try and calibrate underemployment. As a result, you're at the liberty of how people fill in surveys. Elodie says, what's hysteresis? Hysteresis is when a short-term rise in unemployment becomes a long-term rise in unemployment. Nice answer there from Noah. Inactivity is when people are not in work due to a variety of circumstances they cannot control, health issues, disabilities. This is one of the key topics of the age at the moment. Certainly hasn't come up in Edexcel yet. Paper 2 hasn't come up. Although there was a question on how you could use supply side policies to drive growth, and one SSP would be to address this issue. There's Evan's answer. Unemployment is those who don't have a job, but they're looking for work, looking for paid work. Whereas inactivity is those who do not wish to join the labour force, abstain from work. Well, yeah, abstain. I would be slightly cautious, Evan, using the word abstain. Most people are inactive not because of choice. In the sense you might abstain from voting in the election, for example. That's a choice you make. I love Ben's answers. Ben always provides brilliant answers for us. Those who are not actively seeking work, whereas unemployment, of course, you must be actively seeking work and available to work. Harriet and Oscar and Joy had brilliant answers, and George has obviously loads of good answers coming through. Okay, so I think you're well on this, you're very clear on this. Well done to all of you. Here are my answers coming through just for revision. So if you're unemployed, to claim the JSA, you have to be out of work, actively searching for work and available for work in the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks. The inactive, people of working age, not looking for work, and that includes people who are long-term sick, students, early retirees. Many students work, of course, but some don't. Early retirees, unpaid carers who've given up a job. Oftentimes people give up a job, and this doesn't have to be old people. They could have to give up a job when they're young, leave the labour market for a period of time to look after people in the family who are ill. And I'm conscious, by the way, whenever we have our groups together, we have hundreds of students. Oftentimes there are people who are homeschooled or people who are living at home and caring. And we appreciate you joining us. We really do. The Snap Bandit comes in. If we can just go back to a quick point from the Snap Bandit, who is currently on the treadmill. Now, anybody who's on a treadmill and produce an answer like this, I think we need to turn up the pace. It links to labour force participation. Can be improved by investment in vocational training, healthcare, transport infrastructure on the supply side. All good stuff. Yeah, Ed's right. I think it's the next 2 weeks. You have to be available for work in the next fortnight. Okay, cracking stuff. Now let's look at some questions. So again, we're going to think synoptically here. Latest data, which you don't need to know, but I thought I'd give it to you anyway, is that unemployment has just ticked up, hasn't it, to 4.3%, the highest it's been for a year now. The exam, of course, was set over a year ago. As you'll have seen in paper 1 and paper 2, the data is a bit out of date. But vacancies are falling, unemployment's gone up, and unemployment has risen by about 1%, about 300,000. So here's a question for you. We're going to think synoptically. So can you assess 2 micro effects of rising unemployment? So again, have a go. Let's start the clock. What we did yesterday, we practiced micro, macro. Micro, macro. This is the practice we need for next week. So, micro effects of rising unemployment. What would you choose there? We know that unemployment's going up. It hasn't risen hugely, but there are consequences. So what would you choose? With Edexcel in particular, the examiners are looking for you just to pick out one micro consequence and assess it. So Kieran talks about excess supply of labour, can lower wages, lower costs. Now, what I would do there, Kieran, to improve that answer is link it to a particular business or particular industry. You're on the right lines. Can you then link it to an example? Esther's point is really good, household incomes. Then you link to living standards, relative poverty, presumably for those families affected. Okay, so to make it micro, you've got to focus on those families affected. Lots of good answers coming through. What have we got here? Hayden talks about unemployment leads to a reduction in productive efficiency. Dylan talks about higher costs. Oh, there we go. Here's Hayden's point. Possibly due to some skilled workers not being part of the workforce. Yeah, okay. So, and as we've seen coming out of the pandemic, of course, labour shortages have become chronic, endemic in the UK economy. Nearly 1 million vacancies in the UK. Dylan talks about higher costs. There's high street jobs which will reduce supernormal profits. Okay, that could be the case. If the unemployed workers leave the labour market, you could make a link there, Dylan, to higher costs. You could indeed. Most of you are going labour market-ish, which is good. Here's my two answers. I have gone for living standards of those affected. So here's a little exam tip. If you just said living standards, the examiner could treat that as macro. So you could just zoom in a little bit and say that those affected. If you're unemployed, you lead to a loss of income, a fall in savings, the risk of falling behind with your rent, your mortgage, other bills. So there's often a consequence at the household level for the ability to pay your rent. Can you continue to pay the interest on your mortgage? Do you have to dip into savings? Do you have savings? That's micro. Evaluation point, of course, the word was assess. But we have a welfare system. We have universal credit. We have the job seekers allowance. So there's a kind of buffer there, stabilising the incomes. But much depends on how long you're unemployed for. So are you unemployed for 3 months, 6 months, or more than a year? So the consequences at micro level depend on the duration or longevity of unemployment. And then businesses. So businesses will be affected. Loss of sales, falling revenues. Perhaps some businesses might shut down. Negative multiplier effects could kick in. Maybe Tom Beckley talking about cost revenue diagrams there. Yeah, well, you could actually add in there maybe falling costs if wages fall, but certainly falling demand. So that would be a really good use of micro, Tom, an inward shift of AR and MR due to a recession. That'd be a great use of diagrams. Evaluation, government office support. So we had the furlough during the pandemic. Businesses can defer corporation tax, so they don't. And if they're making they don't pay corporation tax in the year they make their profits. There might be other ways that businesses can control costs. Next question. Can you give me two macro effects of rising unemployment? What are you going to choose here? A couple of people saying that isn't living standards macro. It is, but if you bring it back to the individual household or the locality or the community, then it becomes micro. Okay. This is why we practice these questions. We just get a nice feel for the synoptic aspect. Harbeer comes in there with a great point. Ayushi with about, here we go. So higher unemployment can limit the productive capacity of an economy, can hinder trend growth, places strain on government finances, more spent on welfare. And a lovely bit of application there. Interestingly there, Ayushi, the budget deficit, 4.2%, pretty much the same as unemployment, 4.2%. Faye comes in with a Phillips curve analysis. So one consequence might be a fall in inflation. Okay. And that, of course, would invite a good Phillips curve diagram. So well done on that. Great answers coming through, as always. Those of you who are new to our live streams, this is number 33, I think, or 32. We've got 6 more to go. Marcus Rashford, fresh from an amazing weekend. Thought you played okay, actually, Marcus. Better than you played recently. Talks about lower consumption, less job security. Nice link there to job insecurity. Fall in aggregate demand, and then therefore weaker growth. So you've got a nice chain of reasoning there. You could actually, Marcus, to improve that, bring in the out of the output gap, or talk about cyclical unemployment. So add in some extra stuff. Queen Bee diverts government funds from spending on American public goods, such as early year education to unemployment benefits. Absolutely superb assessment, because there's always an opportunity cost. If you're spending more on welfare, something else has to give. Wow, just some amazing answers coming through. I don't know where we even start to choose some of these, so keep an eye on these. I've gone for 2. I've gone for budget deficit, which I know some of you did, and I've gone for weaker growth. So clearly, if there's more unemployment, people aren't paying as much in tax, both the money they earn and the money they spend. So tax revenues go down, welfare spending goes up. And of course, it makes it harder for the government to control and reduce the national debt. Just for context here, just in case people think that living on job seeker allowance is the life of Riley. If you're aged under 25, it's £71.70 a week. If you're aged over 25, it's £90.50 a week. These are not big sums. Unemployed, and then we get the weaker growth. So in particular, the negative multiplier consequences for the wider economy, there, weaker growth. Ed talks about less savings in the economy, less investment. I think that's right, Ed. Much depends on the scale of the increase in unemployment and how long people are unemployed for. Okay, great stuff. Let's move on. Can the UK reach full employment? Possibly. Now we're going to focus on employment here. Just the tiniest. There was a question actually in paper 2 Edexcel on percentage point change. Edexcel fans will know that. And certainly during Grade Booster Live in the cinemas, we always had a question on percentage point change. So hopefully people who were there got that question. It's not the same as percentage change. Now what I'm doing here is I'm saying we're going to focus on employment. So at the moment, the employment rate in the UK is 75%. Okay, and there's about 21% inactive, which gives about 3%, 4% unemployment. So here we go. Now I really want to focus on this. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Can you give me 2 micro policies that might increase employment in the UK? Have a go. So just practicing here, a slight tilt of a question. If the question is about employment, the answer has to be about employment. But one of the tricks in the exam is to always focus on the question and not just write a generic answer on unemployment when the question is about employment. What kind of micro policies might get more people in work and obviously reduce unemployment? But have a go. That's come for apprenticeship schemes. I think 1 or 2 people saying fall in minimum wage. Liam's gone for subsidising firms that offer internships, vocational training. I think that's a great answer. My great friend Jay Cole, subsidised firms to move location to higher unemployment areas. A kind of levelling up policy there from Mr. Cole. Some good answers coming through. A lot of people talking about subsidies to firms to train workers to apprenticeships. Grace, trade union strength to push up the minimum wage. Oh, here's Laura. Now, Laura doesn't get through a live stream without mentioning JP Morgan. We think either Laura is a senior executive at JP Morgan or has ambitions. So subsidies for firms to invest in training and apprenticeship schemes, e.g. JP Morgan. Now, by the way, I had a student about 10 years ago who got an A star and ended up doing PPE at Oxford. It's one of those dodgy degrees the government's probably going to get rid of. His answer to every single question, and I kid you not, every question was build more bridges. He thought that was the solution to virtually every economics problem. Grace talks about employment subsidies. Here we go, a bit of labour market from Grace. Means MRPL flex workers who increases and incentivises firms to hire more without reducing profits. An employment subsidy, Grace, would certainly invite a really, really good diagram. What have we got? Jamie Cole saying Bank of England moving some back office work to Leeds. Indeed, the DVLA moving to Swansea and the Treasury moving to Darlington. 3 places on my wish list. Places you want to go to before you pass away. Leeds, Swansea and Darlington. And Sam's suggestion is build more bridges. Thanks, Sam. I think my former student would agree with you. What have I gone for? Again, the question was about employment. So I've gone for, it's basically getting people into work. You might say it's the same thing, but it's linked. Tax relief and subsidies. So, for example, tax relief to encourage businesses to hire more workers. Improve access to finance, maybe government-backed loans to help businesses grow and then hire more people. So the application there, micro, well, you've got to give it to an industry. So how about, for example, tax relief for subsidies for renewable suppliers or tax incentives for firms who are thinking about increasing affordable housing? You can make a case, by the way, let's move away from bridges. The solution to most economic issues is probably to build a lot more homes and a lot more affordable homes. So how can you do it? Well, of course, it creates employment. And then things like childcare support, transport support. So childcare subsidies, tax relief on childcare enables more women to enter, become employed, and remain in the workforce. Transport subsidies targeted at certain groups makes it more micro, such as younger workers or the long-term unemployed. Okay, you get the idea here. Okay, have another go at this one. We're doing well macro policies now, please. What macro policies would you choose that might increase employment? Have a go. Of course, this is not doesn't take long for Jim and Ollie in the office, the production team, to absolutely hit the nail on the head, or the nail on the bridge. Daniel comes in with a really good point about work visas. Certainly getting interesting. If people come in on work visas, in other words, they already have a job, that increases the employment rate because you are increasing the employed labour force. Kaylin talks about decreased income tax, incentive to work. Yeah, so work incentives there will be good. That's a great point. Epic Econ 7000. Youth employment guarantee seen in Germany. Absolutely right. There is a youth employment guarantee in Germany. Denmark has one as well. The UK, they're thinking of bringing one in. If you don't want to join the army, we can certainly guarantee you some gainful voluntary work during your gap year. Harriet talks about government spending infrastructure such as SST to increase mobility of labour. Yeah, these would raise employment. These are all good policies. Don't worry too much about paper 3, by the way. It's all the stuff you've learned for papers 1 and paper 2 is relevant for next week. There's no new material to learn. You just need to go keep the same high standard as we've seen. Kaylin says build bridges. Well, I think we're getting the message, aren't we? Wakeford's talking about expansionary fiscal policy. Yeah, good stuff. Let me see my 2 answers. So I'm suffering from hay fever today. I've gone for a couple of things. I've gone for cuts in employer national insurance. Did you know that firms also pay national insurance contributions based on percentage of the wages? They also pay into pensions. So if you cut national insurance, the marginal cost of employing people in theory goes down. It's a bit like a wage subsidy, and in theory that allows more people to be taken on. And the evaluation is, yeah, cutting employers' national insurance, but other costs might be going up at the same time. Energy prices, a minimum wage. I've gone for interest rates. I think that's quite a standard macro point, isn't it? So the Bank of England might cut interest rates to boost the economy, demand, investment, exports, growing the demand for labour. However, it depends on the magnitude of interest rate cuts and also critically, as you know, if you revise monetary policy, whether commercial banks actually pass on those lower interest rates to households and firms. Great stuff. Right, next point. Can tax be both micro and macro? Absolutely, Ellie. Taxation has both micro and macro consequences. So typically things like indirect taxes or carbon taxes will be more micro. Corporation tax, income tax, more macro. Next slide, almost there. We're doing really well. Oh yeah, two application spinners. I thought we'd do something slightly different here. So this is where we're going to do one micro, one macro, if it's okay with you. So what have we got here? Frictional unemployment, long-term unemployment, youth unemployment, inactivity amongst the over 50s, that's me. Labour shortages in the NHS, labour shortages in building. Okay, now this is, I think, a random spin. Let's spin the wheel. Do I have to press? I've pressed the button. Right, now this is a little, have a go at this, everybody. Hundreds in the live chat, have a go. I'm looking for micro policies to address youth unemployment. So the more micro you can make it, the better. There's no clock on this one. So we'll just keep a really good look at the live stream and the chat window. Can you think of micro policies to address youth unemployment? Now, a lot of you are saying training, education, which is okay. It's not going to get you the grade. You need to be more specific, if that makes sense. As we said, I think it was a question on supply side policies. How can we use supply side policies to drive growth? Came up as a 15 mark on Excel last week. The best answers will have given me really specific supply side policies. James does exactly what we're hoping for here. So helping young people get the skills necessary, such as T-levels. So T-levels is micro. But James, to make that even better, you give me an industry where T-levels might be applied, if that makes sense. You've made a great point. Can you then give me an example of an industry where T-level investment might be used? That would make it micro. Loads of good answers coming through. Our team live in the teaching office will pick a few more out. Evan talks about launching school leaver apprenticeship schemes and introducing 0-hour contracts for students who wish to have part-time work. Well, of course, if Labour get in, they'll abandon the 0 hours contracts. Switch lens changes the focus here, pardon the pun, maximum price of university fees to increase the take-up of higher education and increase MRP. Yeah, so tuition fees, of course, have been capped recently. Grace is brilliant at application, by the way. Those of you who followed us throughout our journey this summer, Grace is always brilliant on application. 11% youth unemployment, regulation to increase young people in education and training until 18, subsidies in specific industries with labour shortages, social care to address chronic labour shortages. That's good application. Lots of good application. Thomas comes in. We'll get George Hurd in a second. Tom Sparkle. Rishi's new scheme. I don't relate on first name terms, Tom. To force us into national contribution to charities, to teach us skills. Most of the 18-year-olds I know and teach are perfectly happy volunteering all kinds of different ways. They make an amazing contribution to society, and they've had it tough. So I wasn't quite enamoured, but let's just put it this way. I didn't give that policy proposal much headroom. George Hurd came in with, Grace's answer was brilliant. This is George's answer coming up. Increase apprenticeships to reduce occupational mobility. 100,000 apprenticeships. Getting rid of, obviously, PPE to fund that. Bridgewater College for Hinkley Point and, Agratus Bath. Wow, that's a really good, often that's an external economy scale, isn't it? The colleges and universities often are tied in with infrastructure projects. There's a lot of construction apprenticeships built around, for example, the London Super Sewer and Crossrail. I have gone for apprenticeship funding in selected industries. Now, this is a nice phrase to use, by the way. If you use the phrase in selected sectors or industries, that tells the examiner it's micro. By the way, I'm marking paper 3, right? Such as construction, health and social care. And startup grants, startup loans in sectors such as digital marketing, green initiatives to help young people set up in business. Those are, the answers you're giving are brilliant, by the way. But can you just see how that's just a bit more specific? And we're using the phrase such as. And what's really interesting is that students use that phrase and they give a good example. They always get higher marks. Okay. Tom says, Jeff, can you mark mine? No. There's youth unemployment in the UK. It dipped below 10% for the first time in 30 years in September 2022. So we've made some progress in cutting youth unemployment. It has started to rise again. Who knows, that could be a focus. Okay, brilliant. So last question. Oh, no, let's go back to the spinner. Let's have one more go. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, here we go. I think they're the same issues. Spin that wheel, please. It won't be youth unemployment. I'm saying that. What will it be? Okay, have a go, please, in the chat window. Some macro policies to target long-term unemployment. So this is synoptic thinking. Macro policies to target. Now think about the causes of long-term unemployment, because the most effective policies are nearly always those that target the underlying cause. What do we think? Long-term unemployment. People have been, and don't forget, this is not just young people. Okay. Luca says, thanks for the live stream, Jeff, but I've got to go for a haircut. Luca, I'm going for a haircut myself this afternoon, funnily enough. My hairdresser charges normally £2 plus a £300 search fee. So Ruth Shield's gone for subsidising training partners. Training teams to reduce hysteresis. Absolutely right. That would be an economy-wide. Presumably, if it's macro, Ruth Shield, it would be economy-wide. So, what you would, let's say, a national training scheme. Okay. If you're just adding the word national, Ruth Shield, you make it macro. Okay. What else have we got? Yeah, people are talking about big increases in spending on NHS to try and address that long-term chronic issues. National spending on STEM skills or computing from Kirsty there. Really good answer. Improving their human capital. Anybody who puts human capital in an answer is going to get a good mark. James says, Jeff, please explain the surge fee joke. I've heard it many times, still don't get it. Well, the basic idea behind the joke is that the first part of the joke is that it's really cheap for me to have a haircut, for obvious reasons. But then you add in the phrase search fee, because obviously it takes a long time to find any hair to cut. So that explains the joke. Okay. LED talks about supply side policies in CAPS, increased mental health training, support for those suffering from mental health issues. Correct. Now you need a range of policies. Madeline talks about healthcare investments vital to reduce long-term unemployment, especially after the pandemic. I think that's right. And you're showcasing there when you answer that, Madeline, the consequences of external shocks. Counselling services boost employment rates. Just provide better counselling and therapy and talking therapy, and just address the issues which stop people taking work. By the way, I hate answers which talk about voluntary unemployment. There's nothing voluntary about unemployment. Shreya talks about childcare support. Yes. Lessens the weight of unpaid domestic labour for women, especially leading to a lessening of economic inactivity. In other words, you've got a vast number of policies. They said that when it comes to synoptic, the final reason comment in the 25 marker is to say, well, what do you think, micro or macro? My own view, for what it's worth, is that to get unemployment down, you've got to have micro foundations. You've got to get the micro policies right. And that includes housing and health. Grace talks about government spending on technology and training. Good stuff. What I would do there, Grace, it's a great answer, by the way. I'd just be looking for a couple of such as there. Training in which areas? Whatever it is, digital skills, training in software design, training in large language models. Doesn't matter what it is, but just add in a bit of seasoning. I have gone for, in the spinner, I've gone for corporation tax relief for investment in areas of high unemployment. That's the levelling up agenda, isn't it? So you have things like free ports and things, but basically lower corporation tax if you invest in an area of economic deprivation. Our old friend, infrastructure spending and funding for skills in associated sectors. It's not just the building, it's the supply chain. And things like employment subsidies at a national level for long-term unemployed. The UK, one of the things that Osborne did, I mean, I hated austerity and still do. One of the things that Osborne eventually did was cut national insurance for firms who took on long-term unemployed workers. Not sure what impact it had, but it was a welcome policy initiative. Well done, everybody. We've done half an hour on unemployment. GG says investment in next generation renewables. Well, to improve that, I'd go for third generation. Because most people know what first generation is. Very few know what second generation is. Third generation renewables takes you to another level. Well done. Just a quick reminder, by the way, of some of the diagrams. Oh, before we do that, most unemployment in the UK is short term. The blue line is people being out of work up to 6 months. That's basically frictional unemployment. The grey, the dark blue line is between 6 months and 12 months. The grey line is over 12 months, and that's long-term unemployed. So the progress we've made in cutting that has been welcome. It is now starting to rise again. Okay. Tom says, Jeff, what university taught you all this amazing knowledge? Tom, I was at Cambridge. I studied at Cambridge when I was your age. And I was, enjoyed it. As I like to say, Tom, both the friends I made at university, I've kept in touch with. Daniel says, does gardening leave count as unemployment? No. Quick reminder, Phillips curve. I think Grace mentioned the Phillips curve in an answer. Please do revise the Phillips curve for next week. Natural rate Phillips curve. Labour demand and supply, definitely. People talk about unions and minimum wages and subsidies. So you can definitely use labour market diagrams in paper 3. For sure, you can use ADS diagrams, any macro diagrams on the effects of changing unemployment. Okay. And cost and revenue diagrams, which you've always mentioned, wage subsidies, the impact of recession. Okay. Harry says, Jeff, how should I approach paper 3? The answer, Harry, is come to our specific revision clinic on AQA paper 3, which is on Tuesday of next week. Okay. And we do a one on Edexcel for Wednesday. Then we have a day off, Thursday the 6th, and then Friday the 7th. It's up to you. There we go, everybody. fantastic. Big thanks as always to our production team in the office who they're always there, even when I leave the live stream. They're there. Well done, everybody. I hope you made the session useful. I think I'm going to put up a big topic for next week. It doesn't have to be the UK, it could be a European or development focus easily. Okay, just revise the content you've done for papers 1 and paper 2, and then just think synoptically in your answers. That's the way to do well in paper 3. There's no mystery about it. But we will go through AQA and EdXL revision clinics specifically for those papers. We'll walk through the exam technique. Epic says, enjoy the wrap. I've got it here. I'm actually halfway through it. But before I enjoy the wrap, let's just wrap up our session. Please press like if you enjoyed the session. Don't forget to press like if you didn't enjoy the session. That means we can spread the news of our great live streams to lots of other people. Harry says, I've got geography on Monday. So Harry will be spending the weekend looking at maps, presumably. Freddie says, why is economics grade boundaries out of 335? Freddie, there's a simple reason. Paper 1 and paper 2 are more heavily weighted. Assume you could be AQA, but EdXL 117.5, 117.5. First 2 papers out of 235, which gives them a 35% weighting each. And then the last paper, paper 3, is out of 100. So that's the way it is. All 3 papers are out of 100, but they weight up papers 1 and paper 2, which means that if you're an EdXL student, you've already done 70% of the exam. But as I said to my students in the past, the first 2 papers determine whether you pass the exam. Some of you will already have passed economics. Okay, paper 3 essentially determines the grade you get. So if you finish on a high, then paper 3 is the way to do it. Smash paper 3 and then walk out with your head held high into other exams or a wonderful summer. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay happy, stay curious, stay healthy, and hopefully see you tomorrow.